All right, everyone. Welcome to the pilot, I guess, of what will hopefully be a sort of read along podcast for many books. But we are starting with the Prince of Nothing trilogy by R. Scott Baker. My name's David. I'm here with Jinx. That
Guys.
that's that what you're going by?
Yep, it's going by that. Many names,
Sounds
but
good.
I'll go with Jinx.
Sounds good to me. Yeah. So, Jinx is a returning reader to this trilogy, which is the opening of what I think is supposed to be a three arc saga. Right now, there are two out, the second Apocalypse saga. And this is my first time reading through the first book, The Darkness That Comes Before. This is something that was sort of on my radar for a while, but the more and more I learned about it, I got more and more tempted. It leapfrogged a few things on the list of things that I want to read. And yeah, I guess a basic overview would be, like I said, I haven't read it all the way through. So this is sort of just the blurb that I've gotten and what my conceived notions seem to be after reading the first part. But it's a dark, grim, dark, epic fantasy series following essentially a continent or like multiple sides of a conflict in what seems to be the onset of a holy war. Um, Definitely a high fantasy, I would say. Seems to be multiple schools of magic going on, um, and really philosophical in what it's exploring, not just on the ethical side, which I feel like we see in a lot of speculative fiction, but also on the metaphysical side, which really appeals to me. Um, I did study undergrad philosophy, and at a time, definitely went down a bit of a rabbit hole in terms of looking into things like nihilism and metaphysical stuff, whether that be determinism versus free will or just all sorts of things like that, that I hadn't really found in fiction up to this point, but would love to see a lot more of. And I can tell you off the bat, we're definitely getting some of that here.
You are in the right place.
Yeah, that can of worms is already cracking back open. So, yeah, so I guess a couple disclaimers I want to put out before I kind of describe what we're doing here is if you're interested in reading along with this series with us, um, there's some things you should know going in. All the trigger warnings are here, all of them. Specifically, SA, definitely a lot of violence. Um, it's a brutal one that I've seen reviews from people that indicate that it might bring about some existential dread or things like that. So definitely need to buckle your seatbelt, as I've done going into it. And it's definitely, well, I would say there's probably some other stuff out there that might be more throwing you into the deep end than this one is. Um, there's kind of a lot to take in off the back. I've already been leveraging the glossary. I've held a lot of my questions about what's going on for this episode, but I can say, well, I think I'm following pretty well. You're going to be confused, so hopefully I get that remedy today, and you do as well. But yeah, other than that, I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I know this has a lot of inspirations from um, other series like Dune and Malazan, and historical influences like the Crusades, which I honestly don't know too much about the parallels just yet. But Jinx, I know you're pretty well versed in those sort of relations. If you want to dive into that a bit.
I am still working on it myself. I'm still like halfway through the my Crusades book by Dan Jones, and I still want to do some more reading through. So hopefully, by the time we start getting more like historical references, I mean, I already see some of the references, but that's because of we're watching podcasts from other people and just knowing certain things about what they have done. So I, for the most part, am similar in your shoes when it comes to like the Crusades, but it's not. But maybe I have a little bit more information, just a little bit more. But I hopefully will be more well versed in the coming weeks. So bear with me. I'm not the most scholarly person. I am by no means a historian, and I did not have a philosophy background. So you're gonna have to excuse my ignorance. I'm sorry.
Well, I do just want to throw out to everyone, yeah, we are definitely not claiming to be experts here. Jinx has read the series before. This is a reread for him, which I think should really add to the experience. But I think what we're doing this for is really just to have fun with diving deep into a series that you can dive deep into, and have a discussion about it. Obviously, these episodes will be between the two of us, but we are open to discussion. So if you've got thoughts or things that you've caught that we're glossing over, that you want to let us know about in the comments. As of the recording, still not exactly sure where we'll be putting this up. Probably on YouTube just as a pilot. So yeah, feel free to get engaged, subscribe, comment down below if you're interested. Maybe we'll be on some other platforms too down the line. Not too sure yet.
And please be
Um,
civil.
Definitely that as well. Yeah, take all this with a grain of salt. We're just kind of I myself am definitely just sort of exploring initial thoughts here. I've got some notes written down per chapter here. We'll be talking about part one today, where I've written down some things that have stood out to me, things that it's got me thinking about, plot broad strokes. But um, yeah, I know Jinx has some questions for me loaded up about yeah, just to sort of dive into what my reading experience has been like. So, if you want, we could just dive into the prologue.
I think
Um,
so. Let's go for it.
yeah, okay. So, if I am recalling correctly, we start off, I guess, around 2,000 years ago, where and another disclaimer that I forgot to bring up is that while I've been reading a lot of these names, I haven't spoken a lot of them out loud yet. Um, the title for the kings that starts with A.
Anasarimbor.
The Anasarimbor. Um, and I believe his family are seeking refuge from some sort of plague and apocalypse. Where there is also, that's been tied in, I guess, with a sort of assault by uh, a group, the Consult, something along those lines.
Mm-hmm.
Muddy waters here, but we see the death of the reigning king. I believe his son, the prince, is the only one who sort of makes it out alive. And actually, something that really stuck with me was um, there was maybe it was a priest or some sort of servant that
Bard.
he. Okay, yeah. Oh, that's right. It was a bard um, who that child threw off the edge of a cliff or castle walls. And a question is posed as to whether that was even murder if no one was left alive. So the nihilism is already making itself apparent in terms of what meaning really is. And then from there, we kind of jump ahead to who seems to be a descendant of these people by the name of Kellis. And he's just going off. I This was a bit unclear to me. I guess to find his father, or he's received some sort of communication from his father through a dream to meet him in some other place. Another name I probably should have written down.
Shima.
He run. Okay, that's right. He runs into, or I mean, he's kind of trekking through these woods and not doing too hot. I think he kind of passes out of starvation and cold. And he's taken in by um, a trapper in the woods. And when he wakes up um, in that trapper's hut, um, we see him, interface with the trapper, trying to basically pull as much information out of him as he can by means of psychological manipulation. And that was something really fun for me that um, it was apparent to me off the bat that we're going to be exploring themes like the nature of consciousness and what makes people tick and how their line of thoughts go and things like that. So while in real life I wouldn't say hanging out with a psychological manipulator is an ideal
No,
uh,
it's not.
an ideal association for the purposes of this book. um, I was pretty hyped to watch all that unfold. And then from there, um, there is seems to be an ancient race that was assaulting the area for reasons that seem a bit unclear. Uh, the two characters we're following head off into the woods. Um, Trapper gets injured by one of them. Kellis basically just leaves him for dead. Um, Comes upon some sort of fortress with some magical properties or something like that, and I think one of these beings catches up to him. And assaults him, and I'm totally butchering this, I bet, but I'm just trying to recount all this in detail while I, as the reader, was really trying to figure out what was going on as I was reading. Um, but what am I missing here? How did this tie up?
With the you talk, are you talking about the when Kellis towards the end of the prologue? Or are you talking about like when he first got to the ruins?
Well, if unless I'm missing something, that was towards the end of the prologue.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, he gets, and then um, yeah, one of these beings comes up on him, assaults him.
Oh. Oh. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So that was so he when he was in thought, he was attacked by a shrink, um, and then he was once he killed the shrink, he killed a few of them. He was confronted by a non-man.
Okay, that's right. So this is what I was unclear if that was one of the Shranks or okay, all right.
So there's just kind of again just a little bit of lore just to kind of help you guide you here.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and as you can see, I fumbled my way through that. So
it's okay.
this is what I need.
It's great. So a lot of this book series, even the Prince of Nothing and the Second Apocalypse, are have a lot of ties or a lot of what do you call it? What's the word? Connections to Lord of the Rings, very similar. Certain instances. I know Baker fans don't. Please do not hate us for saying this, but it's a lot of like the archetypes are things. So like
Hmm.
in the case Shrank are basically like orcs or
Orcs,
goblins.
that's what I
Yeah,
gathered.
and
Yeah.
non-men are kind of like elves. I know that bigger fans hate when people say that, but they kind of are, but not
I get
really.
yeah.
But
I feel like that's a fair analog to pull right now and just trying to make sense of the situation.
just you'll understand there's a big difference, but like just to make it easy for you, I kind of just, or at least for me, I just kind of think of them like that, just to kind of have some reference, but they're not quite like elves, like Tolkien's elves and stuff like that, and I'm not really even close. But they're a different type of being that are kind of like men, but not really. And they have you'll find out more stuff about them in the future, a lot more. So, but yeah, he
Sounds
was
good.
attacked by a Shrank or a not Shrank first, killed him, and then he was attacked by non-men. And he originally didn't believe magic existed when he was talking to what was his name, Lewis, or something like that.
I didn't write it down.
Yeah, his name is something like Lewis, the dog trapper, or the tracker,
Yeah,
and he said, "Oh man, this guy does not know what he's talking about. He's just speaking nonsense." And then once he was faced with magic, he got the hell up out of there. So he has a lot to learn.
definitely. And especially I found the rest of the part, chapters 1 through 4, as we'll get into, a bit more digestible as we that I think things were being made a lot more clear as to what the direction of the world is, and we kind of mainly just followed one primary POV,
Mm.
not Kellis, who we'll get into. But yeah, just in terms of this prologue, I mean, the tone, the atmosphere was definitely made apparent to me. A lot more sort of atmospheric and immersive and sort of perceptive, I guess, than other grimdark stuff I've tried. Like my comparison, or I guess sort of my only um, yardstick on that would be the first Law trilogy, which I found to really have a lot more of the tone of like a dark comedy, whereas this
Is this
definitely
is
felt a lot more epic.
this is very different from, well, at least I haven't fully read finished all the first law, but there is nothing really funny about this series, like at all. I think there's only
Yeah, I
like
mean,
one or a few funny moments, but not really funny.
there was a bit of a humorous banter going on later in the part for sure, but
Yeah.
littered among not necessarily that. So yeah, I mean, I wrote down like a few quotes that stood out to me in the prologue, but I mean, was there anything you wanted to ask about or making sure I was catching in here that um as I was
um.
glossing over I didn't touch on?
So there were certain instances of names being dropped. Uh, It said like one of the like when I'm looking on page 5 of the pro, at least on my version, it says, and as always, the ancient city, chalk dry in the sun, raising against Dun Hills, a holy city, Shima. Can you think of what that city represents?
In terms of real world parallels,
Yeah.
I mean, I guess Jerusalem would stand out
Yep.
if we're drawing Crusade parallels.
Mm-hmm.
So, and this is, I'll definitely tell you this in terms of the world building. It wasn't until we got into the chapters that I was starting to pay real close attention to that. So definitely missed that one, but I'll
Yeah.
keep that in mind.
Yeah. There's also I did want to kind of fill in some of the gaps. Um, when when the young Anasarin bore, not Callus, is one of his ancestors. I think it was um, the son of Gunrelka the second, the one
We're
that
talking
pushed.
about who was the
Yeah,
boy. Yeah,
yeah, the boy that pushed the bard off the first one that got that again essayed him and then pushed him off uh, the the castle wall. He was
right,
taken in by a people called the Dunyain.
right.
I wanted to mention the Dunyain because Dunyain is a very prominent part of this series. Um, and they seem to be, or let me ask you, what do you think the Dunyain are?
I don't know if I have an answer. Based on the fact that I kind of glossed over them, might indicate that that was something I wasn't paying attention to. Were they referenced later on in the chapters? Um,
Not these chapters, but they were later referenced at least in Kellis's prologue because they were like really prominent in his beliefs or what his ideologies are. So that's why I was like, okay, maybe it might be something you should kind of keep an eye out for.
okay, and that's on my radar again. Kels does not appear for the rest of this part one, for the record.
Yeah.
So,
Mm,
yeah, I'm just throwing that out to the audience in the sense that I'm glad I'm getting all this now before we presumably reunite with him.
yeah. Well, maybe, maybe not. I can't say anything about that. But
That's true. That's true.
other than that, there was a question. Um, it was mostly about the philosophy of the logos, or which was okay. It said, uh, now this is where this is outside my realm of expertise. I mean, I don't really have a realm of expertise, but if I had a realm of expertise, this would not be in it. Uh, there's a quote when on page 6 he talks about the logo. So it's like I guess a type of trance. It says, to grasp what came before was to know what would come after, and to know what would come after was a beauty that skilled the hallowed communication or communion of intellect and circumstance, the gift of the logos. Do you understand that?
Yeah. So, well, I mean, perhaps. I mean, I guess what I sort of took out of that was that. Um, so, I guess to back up a bit. Um, we get a hint that we've got there were some monks alluded to that seem to be leaning into the philosophical framework of determinism, where the idea of determinism is that um, in the course of the universe, every event that occurs is sort of predetermined based on existing circumstances. And even though um, like what we might think of as a human, as an agent making a decision, as other frameworks might view that as free choice. I think the idea really being put forth here by Baker and determinism in general is, um, given all the circumstances of both your mental state and the external environment, whatever choice you make is still predetermined in the sense that given those conditions, you'll make those choices. Compatibilism is another framework to keep in mind here, where it says, yes, determinism is true. We can still identify certain decisions as, say, free decisions or free will decisions, something like that. But at the end of the day, they are still predetermined, right? And
Okay.
there's also sort of a lot of hinting here at the fact that uh, your consciousness is, um, starting off as a blank slate, but then
It's controlled by other people. That's what I was
controlled
getting
by
at.
exactly controlled by other people. Um,
So that's
yeah, a reflection
mm,
of your experiences and ideas and points of meaning that have been etched onto you by others,
mhm.
and things like that. So with I guess with direct regards to your quote, actually, I mean, it sounded like you were going to say something there. You can
It
go
was.
ahead.
I was originally going to say about what I was feeling, what Kels was trying to say, and then this is not me knowing from the future. It's just like me kind of questioning the thought of like just like the logos. It's like you want to be in order you want to be separate. You don't want to be the one being controlled. You want to be ahead of everyone, so you want to be the one orchestrating from the beginning, basically becoming in their eyes the god to manipulate everything. um
Yeah, yeah, okay, gotcha. Yeah, I mean, where I guess where I was going with free will and determinism was tangentially related. Like I was thinking of it more so as, given given the fact that what comes before determines what comes after. Um, the more information you have, the more control you have, the more you can project about what comes next.
oh,
And I
okay,
guess that's
okay,
I might be misinterpreting the quote, but I feel like we're roughly on the same page about what Kellis's mindset with that might be.
okay, okay. Again, I can't say confirm or deny, so I'll just leave that, say okay. All right.
But hey, we're just having fun here. There's philosophy being thrown out, and that can be interpreted however one might want to interpret it. But um, through our butchering and trudging through all this, maybe we can pull some either intended or unintended ideas out of it. So
Mhm.
that's what we're doing here.
Cool. Also, okay, no, I'm gonna save that for later, another episode. Okay,
Sounds good.
let's.
Sounds good.
If you don't have anything else you want to talk about prologue, we can move on to the actual first chapter.
I would like to dive into to what came next because Akamion, or did I pronounce that correctly?
Akamian, yeah,
Akamian,
yeah, Akamian,
Akamian,
yeah.
the sorcerer slash spy, the member of the Mandate School of Magic, or School of Sorcery, or whatever you want to call him, was, I thought, a much more grounded and fun character to follow through the rest of this part one here. And he takes over at the beginning of chapter one, where we see him out in some remote area, and he's in a tavern, and he is speaking to uh, who he believes is an informant of his within the. Is he under the Scarlet Spires
Yes.
or?
So he's speaking to. Sorry to cut you off again. He's speaking
Oh no,
to
go for it.
Gentruni, who is a slave for the Scarlet Spires.
That's right. And yeah, I mean, I just see off the bat here we have another character who is, it's a conversation between two people in which the one whom we're in their head, is looking to manipulate the other and tease out, you know, information. So off the bat, I'm just having a blast with all this. Um, but I guess sort of the idea here is, um, well, first of all, this informant uh, knows that a Kamian, or basically reveals for the first time after what seems to have been several meetings, that a Kamian is a sorcerer. This was information he was withholding, and he's actually challenged to reveal himself as not a sorcerer, by the informant handing him a trinket, or putting one on the table, um, and saying, something along in broad high level strokes, give this a touch to prove yourself. Because something I thought was really cool here is that, in a world filled with powerful sorcery, how do you keep that sort of thing grounded? Well, we have these devices that will basically kill a sorcerer on touch, and obviously a Kamiya cannot touch that. So he's found out. He goes into a bit of a panic stream of consciousness. That was fun to read. Um, but even though it turns out this informant wasn't necessarily after him to kill him, he just sort of wanted him to reveal himself. We're still able to tease some information out of him, being that um, I believe the Scarlet Spire's leader was quickly deposed of by these names, man. These names.
Yeah, so I did want to give you a warning, and also the warning to the people who are listening of the names of they're gonna Baker throws out a crap ton of names at you from different areas. He'll throw out cities, he'll throw out countries, he'll throw out people from those countries and lineage, and it's a lot. Most people don't get everything. I didn't get everything when I first listened to it, so you just got to remember like the main parties and then like the main players in those parties. So I gotta find out. I forgot. The
Also, a lot that
Kishara
started with
is
C. I was having to jump back to this conversation in later chapters just to see what was referring to what, and if we had already discussed these parties and these factions,
so yeah.
etc.
The Kisharam is what they think attacked. What they believe they attacked the new the old Grandmaster, whatever the head of the
Gotcha.
faction is
Okay.
called.
Yeah, and apparently they've been at war with the Scarlet Spires for around 10 years,
Yep.
something like that. And this other group is particularly concerning because they've sort of got a group of priest sorcerers with them that have some alternate sort of metaphysics that uh, run their branch of sorcery. And yeah, the mandate of which Kamian is a part of doesn't seem to like them. I don't really know if any of these different schools of sorcery really get along.
Yeah, none of
Um,
them really do. They've battled in previous in histories of time. They had some battles with each other over just like you know how certain schools will battle other certain schools for kind of influence and stuff like that. We're not really told, but it's kind of hinted at least.
gotcha. Yeah, and then I guess adjacent to these different schools of magic, I obviously as I mentioned, the fact that we've got all this wizardry in here is something that was really interesting to me, especially when the author's holding things back. But we do see Akamian have a bit of a nightmare that night where um, he is Seswatha the
Yep.
name of the
Mm-hmm.
founder of the Mandate?
Yep.
Right. So uh, when the Sorcerers of the Mandate dream, they sort of have to relive his past visions and trauma um, because their school, it seems to sort of serve as those who are trying to maintain the warnings of his final moments, or not necessarily his final moments, but the warning of the onset of yet another apocalypse, where we saw the Anasarimbers fall to the plague and the consults, um, and that will come again someday. I believe Siswatha was with the last of the kings as he died, sort of gave off this warning prophetically or something like that.
Yep.
And these dreams are becoming a lot stronger. So
Yeah.
who knows? Who knows what that's supposed to indicate? Um, Other little bits that happen at the end of this chapter. The informant is actually followed out of the tavern by someone who was there, was eavesdropping in on their conversations. He seems to mutilate him, and I'm not sure if he leaves him for dead or I don't know. There was a dangerous encounter to where the next day, when Kamian finds a kid that he'd been sort of using to run odd jobs for him, he sends him to deliver a message while he's to the informant while he's heading back to his uh, sort of school of wizardry, and there's that feeling of no, this isn't going to work out, as that message probably isn't going to get delivered
I
as
don't
smoothly
believe
as
so.
intended. And by the way, this kid Pomegranate, an absolutely or well, I don't believe that was his name.
No,
Might have
his
been
name's
a
Pomegranate. Oh,
his
yeah, I
name's
think.
Pomegranate. Yeah, I guess in reference to a birthmark on his face. We see some painful reflections from Kamion as he thinks about what other people are using this kid for, and I think that really sets the tone of
Yeah,
how
yeah, yes,
how brutal people are in this world.
yeah. Very sad.
So yeah. Um, yeah, I thought the writing in this chapter was off the charts. A shudder of animal terror passed through his pinned arm. Really gave me the sense of the nerves as Kamion thought he was being found out.
Yeah,
Yeah, just more hints of um, you know, things about nihilism and meaning. Wrote down the line, ink might be immortal, but meaning was not. In reference to how, interpreting text and such might change over time and things of that nature, just playing into
hmm
the idea of one's consciousness and interpreting of general perception and meaning and things like that is shaped by your environment and those around you.
very much so.
Anything you wanted to ask me about here?
I just wanted to uh, I wouldn't say fix, but also make an addendum, just saying the trinkets are called koroi. Um, Again, like you're correct. If you touch it, or if you're, yeah, if you touch it, you're gonna die.
Yeah, and
So it definitely Aka was like, not really. He was really tried to play the poker face, but he knew that get whatever the dude's name. I already forgot the name. Dude. Gishruni.
yeah,
Um, there's so many names. Gishruni was knew that he was a wizard, so or sorcerer. So like, it's not something that he can really bluff. Um, so the reason why they're scared or reason why Koroi hurts them or kills them is still unknown. Uh, I am looking forward to learning more about that or
and
later on,
actually,
hopefully.
just to jump ahead here a bit, we'll obviously get more into the weeds here, but just because this is full spoilers up to through the part here. Um, we see Inru later on, who we know has been through some training of the mandate, but he hasn't actually touched the soul of Siswatha or
Yeah.
affected his dreams as he left. Um, when he's assaulted by, I guess, who are members of the council at the end of chapter 4, they press a trinket up to him, and he that doesn't instantly kill him.
Mm.
Is this, I guess, proportional to the exposure that he had to the magic or becoming
I'm
a
not
sorcerer?
entirely sure because I was reading that again and I was like, did he? I thought the moment you start using that type of magic, you are. That's how I thought the Koroi kind of works. It's like
Yeah.
it's like a stain on yourself. So maybe you get like you're marked with something. I'm not entirely sure.
That almost reminds me of in the Wheel of Time, where you have and not to get too off track here, but the side of the like true source of magic in that world that um, males interface with is tainted, like sort of corrupted, and the more and more you use that magic, the more likely you are to be driven mad or things like that. So I guess okay, just thinking of it under some sort of proportional framework like that, probably not too big of a deal. But I just wanted to clear that up.
Yeah, because I was like, I actually genuinely don't know if you like the moment you do use it, like you're like okay, you can be killed, or if it's like okay, you've used it a certain amount of times, like you'll get hurt, but you won't like just straight up die if you touch a Koroi. Because they talk about like the few like later on the few chapters of the people that can see the magic, and those are the people that are capable of using magic.
Right.
So
Oh
I don't
boy, and
know.
there's someone who might be part of the few that has me
Yeah,
really intrigued, as we'll
yeah,
get into.
we'll get that into that. I don't know if there's anything else you want to talk about for chapter one. I mean, it's really straightforward. I mean, it's just Akka trying to be a spy and failing utterly.
Yeah,
Um,
right. I
but
mean, I did write down another quote that I really liked, which was,
okay,
he also learned that there were times recent and ancient, that a long time ago was not like another place, but rather a queer kind of ghost that haunted every place.
Hmm.
So I like that one. And then also just something that's got me thinking about was, what is Siswatha up to right now? We obviously find out in the next chapter, as we'll get into, that these dreams are becoming a lot stronger for everyone. Does he believe Kellis is supposed to be sort of the spearhead of a second coming of the dominance of the Anasem, or
Don't worry, it took me a
ah,
while.
dude,
Anasa Rimbor. Yeah.
Anasa Rimbors? Yeah, is he gonna be our Paul Atreides here or something like that? I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, I guess this is a perfect segue into diving into chapter two, where um, Akamian comes back to, I guess, essentially face like the Council of Elders, which is the quorum of the Mandate.
Yeah.
And two characters here is, he's sort of giving his report to, um, totally blanking on his name. Totally
Uh,
blanking on his name. You
it's
have you have his old teacher who's there. Oh, it's not Zara?
yeah, not Sarah.
Not Zara, right? Um, yeah, so and they sort of, it seems there's almost sort of factions or different philosophical frameworks within the Mandate where um Sarah seems to be just particularly devoted to
The cause,
Siswatha.
basically.
Yeah, right, yeah, exactly. Whereas Kamiyan, he's a bit more of a skeptic,
Hmm.
where he seems to maybe be thinking of the fact that all of this information about the past is retained, as sort of a way to guide us avoiding making those mistakes in the future.
Yep.
Whereas Sarah takes the prophecies very seriously and things like that. And on top of that, yeah, Kamiyan is basically the key piece of this chapter is that he's charged to investigate some things happening in um, or is it Sumna? Is that the name
Yes,
of where
Sumna.
he had
Yeah, Sumna.
Sumna? Yeah, and he has a previous student there who we later learn is actually his nephew. Um, and yeah, his previous student, Inru, um, left excuse me, the mandate, left the mandate years back, and Akamian, who was very attached to this guy's sense of innocence and pureness of heart, was happy to see him go on his way and not be tortured by these nightmares. But the reality is that should have been punishable. Um, it seems like the quorum left him be because he might serve a purpose in the future, as we see him now serving, as they essentially want Akamian to go in there, uh, bring him back to, I was going to say the dark side, but I guess they're all dark sides, right? Um, Pull him back in to essentially serve as a kind of an in man to what is happening in Sumna, where we have a character whose name I will butcher, has seized power and is basically setting up for a holy war,
Hmm.
the details of which are kind of murky right now. Maybe not as murky as they lead Akamiyan on to believe, to sort of, omit some things about what's going to have to go down to make him more willing to go, but murky nonetheless.
Yes. So the guy in question, his name is Mathanet.
Nathan, yeah.
Yeah. That's a very old fashioned name. Some of these names are really old fashioned.
Yeah, I looked up I think there was a reference to like why he was named so. I looked up the name origin.
Mm.
He was yeah, an Old Testament figure.
Oh,
Um
really? Okay.
I actually, I might be thinking of something else. Next time, I think I need to be a bit more on top of not only my sources, but I gotta write down these plot summaries as a rather than just kind of recapping. My bullet points here are mainly just adjacent to things that stood out to me. But yeah.
Mm.
So yeah, sorry, continue.
So that's true. Mathanet is the new figurehead of the religion in that country. Um, do you kind of see the parallels what that religion is in real life?
Uh, well, I get the sense here that
In Reethi, should I
this
say?
is this is where the Crusades are going to be coming in,
Yeah.
because they seem to be kind of, at least the intentions of, um, those in Sumna are to, um, and actually, there's another name that I feel like I should know regarding like what their sort of sub government is under the emperor. Starts with an S. Um, Forget it. Regardless, they want to uh, spread word of their god across the land and root out the unholiness, which sounds like it will not be the most peaceful of goings. So
I imagine so.
yeah, and I guess this is diving into chapter three a bit here too, but we do fairly early on learn that it's not necessarily to be a war against the sorcerers as initially feared by the mandate, but um, rather, yeah, with that sort of focus of spreading the alleged good word. Um, yeah, but something I also really liked in chapter two was the fact that it's nuanced in the sense where Baker as the author might have a particular stance on not only the philosophical ideas that he's exploring, but also just within the mandate, the different sort of perspectives, and
Yes.
we get a lot of back and forth there, and I like the opportunity to basically challenge the reader to contemplate it all at once. So thought that was
Oh,
cool.
yep. And I also like how Simus, his old instructor, was he purposely baby. I don't want to say babies. He's purposely kind of what's the word? I'm trying to think of a word to kind of eases very lenient on his students and very pleasant with his students because it'll be disarming and he might be able to get more information out of them and be able to control them in a better way. While more Not Sarah is really strict and hard to demand structure, and you see it later on, like in that conversation, the end of chapter two, with Not Sarah. It's like this guy, he's very calculating, and he was able to um, maneuver his old students to do them what they want in a different way than at least Not Sarah, because Not Sarah's blunt, focused way of doing things might not always work with everyone else.
A lot of strategic cunning in these books for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, they exercise restraint that I wish I had a bit more of in myself. For better intentions, I assure you.
Okay,
But
hopefully.
but yeah, so that's chapter two, and then yeah, Kamian heads on a ship. Um, and I think you're really getting a sense here of how isolated he feels as a sorcerer, and um, from those around him. Seems like we've got an ally captain, but one who is not of the mandate, um, bringing him along. Um, and he gets there. He meets back up with Esminet, who is another person he was reflecting on in chapter two as someone he knew out there. Turns out this is a lover of his who does work as a prostitute. And there's a quick meeting with her. I think we're actually through her POV in chapter four.
Yeah,
So
most of
we
chapter
get
four, that's where you see her mostly shine.
yeah, right.
Yeah, but chapter three, it's like you get a little bit of Esmondette, but it's mostly him meeting up with Enru.
Right, exactly. And that's the bulk of it. First bit of light humor in here as when the Knight Commander shows up on their meeting in the tavern. Yeah, there's a little bit of obviously he's trying to conceal his identity from this knight. The knight's not having it.
Pharcellus.
Yeah, right. Um, and yeah, I read chapters three and four back to back, so it's a little blurred. You remember how this chapter ends
Yeah,
exactly?
so I can kind of handle chapter three and four a bit.
Oh, for sure.
Of course, the Akka, like you said, went on the ship to Sumna, and he arrived. And you got to notice that Sumna is they hold the religion of Inri, which is um, they do not at all support magic whatsoever. So when you're that's why it was like his concerns is like how like dude you're like how did you you're not supposed to be here like how are you gonna like survive going through Sumna, and he's like well uh every I think Akka said I'm not sure if it was this chapter or the next chapter four he said well every all sinners look like purists or something of that nature.
Oh, I
um
love that line. Yeah,
and
they're
so
indistinguishable
yeah,
from. Oh, that was
they're
amazing.
indistinguishable from each other. So it's like he'll make it through just fine. Um, so he arrives there. He goes meets Enru. He talks with Enru and says he of course Enru was like, dude, why are you here? You promised me not to come back or bring me back into the fold. And Akka's like, well, I kind of got twisted my arm into it.
He's in a pickle, but
Yeah, I really can't do anything about that. Like, it's for the greater good, I guess. And that's kind of how he was convinced by his former master
yeah.
to do
And Baker
that.
does a really great job, I thought. Here, sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to throw in adjacent to that, that in chapter two, before you even meet Inru, you feel the conflict
Yeah.
for Kami, just based on the fact that like he's thinking about how pure of a soul he is, and then
Hmm.
I don't even think it's alluded to until we meet him in chapter three that it's his blood relative.
Yeah. Hmm.
So sorry, you can, yeah, continue.
No, that's fine. It is you. You can interrupt whenever you want.
I'm excited, man.
Um,
I'm excited. Nice say.
uh, for so that was mostly part of chapter three. He does when he was like talking with when he was talking with Inru, the knight Sarsalis, over well comes over to see that there was some trouble, and of course uh, Akka pretends, well, technically he is his uncle, but pretends that he's just like a word, sending a message from his sister, and he gets struck in the face, and then the knight go leaves away. Um, Sarcellus comes back later on in chapter 4, but we'll come back to that. Um, and we hear about a little bit about Mathanet making his declaration, at least, and when Akka first came into the city, about his declaration of what the Holy War is going to be and who's the target. Because the original target, they're thinking it was going to be a scholastic war, meaning a war on one of the schools, so maybe the Mandate School or the one of the other schools, um, or it could be a war on a country, which we'll find out again at the end of chapter 4.
Mm.
Um, so that
And
was pretty much it. I did. There was one thing I also did want to notice. To note that um, the school or the power, the reason why um, they're you they want to, if somebody abandons the mandate school, like they have to go out and like either bring them back or kill them, is because they have a power called the gnosis, and the gnosis is like a type of magic that's like they learn from the up north, that's like really powerful. At least that's what it says so far in the book. That other schools envy that they don't know. So
gotcha.
they can't allow that advantage, as they say, get out from their leave from their own ranks. So that's why the gnosis, or that's why they were like, well, Enru would have been killed earlier, but um, Sumiza, whatever the dude, his Akka's old teacher, uh, wanted to be a little bit more patient with that. So
Gotcha.
I think that is pretty much it for chapter 3. I mean, like I said, he did link up with Esmenet again, but it was very brief, at least in this part, and it was more um, prolonged in chapter 4.
Right. And I guess just to be clear, just to give you the idea of, I mean, guys and girls, I am drinking from a fire hose right now. So it's the names that I'm just like I'm not retaining as much. So this guy, this Knight Commander, that's Celis. Is that one of the same people that appears at the end of chapter four?
Correct.
Okay, all right. So that's I guess how they knew to have an eye on him.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez. All right. And then yeah, something I did just want to note about chapter four was just continued little bits of feeding into that idea being played within the prologue of the flow of consciousness being a product of those around you was when he was talking to Esminet. They were talking about the fevers, and there's this line that says he found himself resenting the ease with which his pain had become hers. As he's talking about his own experience with the fevers that upsets her. I forget exactly what the context was, but I love just little subtleties like that showing up that are bringing these ideas back into the forefront. So that's fun. And we start chapter four off with so far my favorite of the epigraphs, which was to be ignorant and to be deceived are two different things. To be
Yep.
ignorant is to be a slave of the world, to be or is it, yeah, to be deceived is to be the slave of another man. The question will always be, why, when all men are ignorant and therefore already slaves, does the latter slavery sting us so? And I believe that was from an in-world book known as the Epistemologies.
Agensis.
Oh, really? Okay. Oh, well,
Yeah,
that might have
yeah,
been the author. Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Okay,
Well, I
gotcha.
think agensis is like a Genesis.
Oh, I see. Okay, got it, got it, got it. Yeah, I feel like I'm jealous of you, like, because I can already tell, like, going back and looking at all the analogs is
Oh,
going to be a lot of
I've
fun.
caught so many like different things. Like I said, I've been chatting with Jimmy from the from chatting with Nuts, not Fantasy Network anymore. Chatting with Nuts,
Yeah,
and I've just been sitting him things, and we're like, oh my gosh, this is like I didn't see this coming. Like, or like, man, he foreshadowed this. Like, oh man, now I get what he meant by that. So definitely a
yeah,
reread. If you are in a reread, it's like it's so much more eye opening. Um,
yeah.
so
This is definitely my first experience since I read A Song of Ice and Fire by George R. R. Martin. Definitely my all-time favorite series where I have just going through on the first read, picked up on like, or just noticed the fact that like there are all these layers to where the reread value will be off the charts.
yeah.
And your enthusiasm to read this along with me was definitely a green flag. So already having fun. Maybe I'll be in your shoes someday. So, but I guess diving into the plot of chapter four, we get a bit of a look into the life of Esmenet, which is um, obviously quite tragic. She's spending time with Kamian as word of the Holy War spreads around, excuse me, along the three seas. I think we jump ahead into spring, where we've been in midwinter for most of the story so far.
Yep.
Um, and yeah, even though she's got like a lover companion right now, she needs to maintain relationships with her clients who don't
Mm-hmm.
treat her very well. So yeah, that was a rough read. But on top of that, we see when Inward comes into the room, from her perspective and from the way Inward's kind of reacting is, um, you can point at multiple problems here, but one of them is certainly that Kamiyan definitely thinks of himself as the intellectual high ground.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, as they're sort of trying to work out, I guess the Scarlet Spires have joined the cause of the Holy War.
Which is
Um,
unusual
right,
because they are totally against sorcery altogether. So for them to say, "Hey, let's join up with the strongest school out there," and I mean, at least in number and influence and power, maybe not physical power, but like just from sorcerer individual sorcerer, but like just the sheer amount of resources that they control. Um, let's team up, tag team, and take down the Phanom. So that's uh that's that's huge.
right, and yeah, I guess what's alluded to is whoever's in charge here was aware that um, the Scarlet Spires were not on good terms with the Chisorium, and or sorry, I'm sorry, you know what I'm talking about,
Yes, yeah.
and
Mm-hmm.
um, as such, um, so Akamion found this out in chapter one from his informant, um, and like as a result, he's not only thinking to himself, how was the mandate so slow to get this information, but also what does this guy know? Who is this guy? What is he up to? And actually, we glossed over this in chapter three, but as the Holy War was announced, this was the character we were referring to earlier, who was one of the few that could, he identified. A Akamian in the crowd
Mm-hmm.
as one of the sorcerers, and instructed him to just flee. Didn't kill him on the spot, but made it
Yeah,
clear he wasn't wanted.
yeah.
So yeah, this guy, whose name I will have down and registered by episode
Nathan
two,
that.
Nathan Net. Um, we we're not sure what he's up to, which is partially why we have Inru, doing his part now. Going to spy on him. And among his internal conflict, he turns to his goddess for guidance and is met not with any help from his goddess, but instead
Absolutely not.
by I guess these members of the presumably members of the consult that come up on him, reveal that they've been kind of following him, seeing what he's up to. Um, and correct me on this if I'm incorrect with what happened. They mutilate him with a trinket, and then he kills himself.
Basically, he pretty much she basically just tries to jump off, and breaks the guardrail and falls to his plummets to his death.
That's a shame, and I think that it's really our only, at least relatively morally pure character
Oh,
gone already.
yeah.
So that's a shame. Um,
Riven Rue.
yeah, but yeah. So that's the state of things. We have a holy war brewing. Um, we're still unclear on the motives on either side or how the mandate is going to react here. The way I'm seeing things rolling are Kellis will be a bit of a champion for the mandate, however they end up proceeding. Um, as maybe a sort of second wave of coming of the Anassa Rimbor line.
Mm.
Um,
And why do you
but
say
is
that? Out of
I
curiosity.
say that because it seems fairly at well. First of all, I guess I was touching on it a bit earlier, why I see sort of the relation there, but also based on the fact that the consult had an issue with who does exist apparently, and was reflecting on that, thinking to himself, like, Akamiyan, this is way worse than you even thought it was.
Yeah.
Um, but they're not too happy with him crying, evidently,
Mm.
and as such, I see the consult being on whatever side the mandate is not on. So
Yeah.
um, yeah, we'll see how this ends up playing out. But yeah, I mean. Um, I really want to know about more about how this magic works. I was initially thinking I really wanted to see a POV of someone getting initiated to having the soul of Saswatha touch them and them, I guess, become infected with his nightmares or however you
Mm.
rise up in the mandate. But then you got this mysterious sort of school of magic that the Sisharium
Hishara.
sorcerer priests are using.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I'm intrigued. And yeah, I mean, it's bleak circumstances, but it's atmospheric. It's thought provoking, and I'm very interested in the characters, if not necessarily rooting for them. And that's really all I need. So
Yeah. Yeah, very much so. I did want to touch on a few things in this chapter. One, we do see, I'm just kind of filling in some gaps for the review chapter summary. We
go
do
for it. I think I kind of
see
jumped ahead a bit.
Esmenet and his and her a flashback of Esmenet with her daughter in the past. That was 60 years ago. Or
Hmm.
no, was it 60 years ago? Or no, it wasn't 60 years. It was sometime in the past. And how she struggled to even get the basic things such as like an apple for her daughter because the
They wouldn't
discrimination
sell to
against,
her kind at the market.
yeah,
Yeah, that
because
was.
of the tattoo on her hand. So that
Mm,
tattoo will,
yeah.
I guess, will come up later on.
Oh,
And
the serpent, right?
yeah, serpent.
Gotcha.
So that shows her that her options of like making a living is very limited, and it kind of is, in my opinion, I find it very unfair for Akamian to be like so judgmental and have a um I would say a judgmental and like a snooty and superior outlook on her circumstances because like she has no way other way of really making money because she's
Hmm.
already branded. So like she has to make her money this way, and like obviously it stated in the previous, I think it was in the prologue, that meant that sorcerers do not have wives. So he can't marry her, he can't provide for her, and she knows that he's going to leave eventually. So she needs to stay, like you said, she needs to stay connected with her clients to keep her clients coming in so she can still make money. Like it's a job for her. Like she can't just whimsy, okay, I'm just gonna settle with you, but like you're not gonna give me anything once you leave. Like you have to be reasonable here, and he just can't get past his own, I don't know, his hubris or his own ego, but He really pissed me off in that chapter in this
Yeah, I
chapter.
mean, feeding
Mhm.
into it as well, I think is, you know, she has a very, I feel like, naive outlook towards him, where um, she feels like the world's a lot bigger when
Mm.
she's speaking to him,
Yeah,
and his concerns are just not close to, you know, being those of hers, where like to him, she's serving as a familiar comfort and, whatnot to him. Um, Whereas while he's here, she feels, I guess, some sort of love um, and whatnot. But again, obviously, he's got no intention to actually
settle
improve her
down. Yeah,
circumstances. Yeah,
yeah.
so
Just like,
yeah, it's
oh,
rough.
it's still, even rereading it, it still makes me mad.
This was
Um,
also the chapter too where, um, obviously you have his grapple earlier on with, how he's going to. I mean, he's basically, using his nephew as a scapegoat sacrifice, right, for the mandate's intentions. But
mm,
even at that point, I still found him to be, uh, you know, at least definitely more of a moral, thoughtful guy in relation to
yeah,
Kellis.
yeah.
So it
In
was an
terms,
upgrade, but
it is an upgrade, but not. Is it upgrade from like utter dictator? I don't even say dictator, just like manipulator, like extreme gas, the most extreme gaslight you'll ever know, to uh, a thief or somebody that's like at the bottom and has no morals. Do what needs to be done to somebody that will at least hesitate.
right,
Something
exactly. But credit to Baker for taking a little while to expose him for, his
flaws.
serious
Yeah, that's
moral
good.
issues,
Hmm.
because like it allowed me to get invested in him and his journey in these earlier chapters. Whereas, if I was presented with another horrible character right off the bat, right after Callus, I might have been like, all right, do I even care about what's happening to these people? But credit where
Yeah, you
credit's
want to
due,
have a
and I'm still
champion
I'm
to
still
root for.
definitely invested
Yeah, yeah.
in
You
him.
everyone wants a champion to root for, and um, for me, at least in the beginning when I was first reading Akka, I'm gonna say I was in the same boat. I rooted for Akka, at least from the start, because I fall under a syndrome of first character syndrome. So like the first character you have an extensive amount of time with, I will be a diehard fan of theirs, like no matter what, and I will always try to root for them. Hopefully they'll become the person I want them to be. But it's not. He's Akka has some struggles he needs to get through. Let's just say that, at least
Yeah.
right now.
First character syndrome. I like that one. I probably got some of that. Um, I'm just thinking that since you said that, I'm just thinking back to other series now. You've read Live Ship Traders, right?
Yeah, so
Do you
that's why
remember?
I'm a avid Althea first character syndrome. That's
Oh, the
like
first character in those books was Captain Kennett.
oh that too. But like Captain Captain Kennett was like the first character, but like Kellis is, but like the first character we have significant amount of time was
I
Althea.
understand. Makes sense. And
Mm,
she's great too.
yeah,
But
so
no spoilers for anything else. Just part one, which we have just tied up. So, you know what, Jakes? This actually, bumps in the road, but smoother than I anticipated it going. Uh, I think we have room to improve, but also I think I'm definitely trying to come at you guys with some more polished plot summaries next time around.
it's okay. We're just winging it for the first one. It's okay.
Exactly,
Mhm.
but I definitely appreciated not only your world building insight, but I had a lot of fun exploring these ideas with you. Which, I mean, this is a series that I feel like not a lot of people read, but I, on the other hand, feel like I've got not only a companion to talk to about it, which I'm excited about, but hopefully all of you as well. If you're reading along with us or have read before, I have some things to add. Comment below, as I mentioned. But yeah, thanks for sticking along. And again, this was our first episode. We really were kind of winging things here, so let us know if you have feedback below. We'd
Yeah,
love to hear it.
appreciate it.
All right, sounds good, everyone. See you in the next one.
See ya.